really love is when you read a book by an author and you really, really like that book. So you're like, I'm going to get their older works. So you go and do that and you read it. And then you realize just how much they have grown as a writer. It is mind blowing. Hello, my bookworms, and welcome to my review on Dissolution by C.J. Sampson. As I said, you can see how much he has grown as an author between this book and Revelation. It's a tremendous difference between the writing styles, and although some of his quirks and mistakes are still the same, he is still a great writer, even in the first book. This book was about 443 pages, so it did take me a good while to get through because it is tiny font on top of that. And it wasn't as compelling as Revelations was. It wasn't as fast paced as Revelations was, so there were parts where I did honestly have to put it down because I couldn't. All the same, it's still a great book. There's not much wrong with it apart from maybe some of the words C.J. Sampson decides to use, but apart from that, it was still awesome. This is the first book in the Shardlake series, and I thought you would be getting a good outlook at some of the characters we saw in Revelations, but the only one you get an outlook to is Shardlake. Jack isn't in it. Tasman isn't in it. It's just Shardlake and his first assistant, Mark. This story begins off with Shardlake getting a task from Cromwell. He has to go to the monastery where the monks live to investigate the murder of one of his fellow, whatever they are. Lawyers? Something with Cromwell, I'm not exactly sure, but Cromwell sent this guy to investigate the monastery because he wants to close them all down, and the guy ended up getting beheaded. Mysteriously, no one knows what happened. So Shardlake is sent off. He takes Mark with him to investigate this murder. Now, unlike in Revelations, where Shardlake is a kind of almost atheist, in this book, he is a firm believer in the religion. He follows Thomas Cromwell like he is a god, and he believes every word this man says. So when he gets to the monastery, he already is pre-programmed to hate these people, to think that their way is the wrong way, and basically to get any information he can to have it shut down and have these people thrown out. In this time, you do meet Brother Guy, which, yes, we saw in Revelations, and you get the first outlook to him, and I love this relationship between them because they don't get along. In Revelations, they're such good friends that in this book, to see them not like each other is just, it's awesome because you really see how those characters have grown, how they have overcome their own beliefs to become friends, and that is awesome. By the end of the book, you can kind of see this mutual respect between them, and I loved it. In his time at the monastery, Shardlake, of course, is investigating and, watching everybody, trying to figure out who that murderer is. For me, that's a pretty weird task to give a lawyer, to go hunt a killer, to find out who this killer is. And it's just, I don't understand Cromwell's reasoning, but it was kind of his way to have Shardlake prove himself, I guess. But it was still just so kind of almost absurd. Like, it was the only way to get him to be in this situation. And that was the only bit I really didn't like about the book, was how absurd it was to send a lawyer to do that. In that time, Shardlake, of course, is talking to all these other monks. You realize which ones are the good ones, which ones are the bad ones. And then in his time there, another murder happens. Oh yes. There's a novice at the monastery, basically this teenage boy who's being trained, and he gets basically starved to death practically and put into the infirmary with Brother Guy, who's taking care of him. This novice is telling Shardlake that a murder has happened before, that this isn't the first time, and at first it's kind of just seen as rambling until the kid dies. He was poisoned, and, granted, Brother Guy figured that out. Shardlake then realizes something suspicious is truly happening. Digging deeper, he finds out out more mysteries about the monastery. Like, there used to be a girl working there in the infirmary with Brother Guy. She went missing. They claimed her to be a thief, but in a moment where Shardlake and Mark go out into the bogs, I want to call it marshland, they discover her body, that her neck had been snapped. She didn't steal anything. She was murdered. And you're just kind of sitting there like, oh, something's happening. And it's just, there is so much going on that I was very confused at times. Towards the end of the book, where Shardlake does start to put together what is happening, he is almost killed. He is confronting a monk about killing the girl, about killing the boy, about killing the commissioner, or whoever the other guy was, about killing them. And there is a moment where that monk kind of gets this crazed look in his face, and you're like, he is the killer. Shardlake had this, and he pushes Shardlake out of the way and gets smushed as this big statue is pushed from up above or something, and he saves Shardlake by risking his own life and gets killed in the process. So you're just sitting there like, who is it then? I was so certain it was this man, who, by the way, was a weirdo. When the killer is discovered, needless to say, it is a plot twist. I did not see that coming, because there's not just one killer. Oh no, there's two. There's two killers running around killing people while scared of the other killer. And you're just sitting there like, what? That's absurd. And then Mark leaves with the killer at the end of the book and just leaves Shardlake, and you're just like, what? What? So that explains how Jack comes into play. But I'm just sitting there like, what? How can... What? On to the things I liked and I didn't like. I really liked this book. It was fun. I had a lot of fun with it. It was not, fast-paced, but it wasn't boring either. It was just a lot of information to take in one go, that it did take me a period of time to, work my way through it. I still really enjoy the characters. I enjoy Shardlake. You see, again, how he progresses as a character between here and Revelations, and I really want to get the next book and read it and see how, again, he progresses as a character until he reaches up to the Revelation point, and then I can get the book after Revelations and enjoy these characters yet again. The setting is also really cool, because unlike before with Revelations, where Shardlake is going from place to place and he's all throughout London, this is set in one specific location where you're not confused as to where he's really at. He's always in the monastery, unless if he goes into the neighboring town, in which case, you're taken on that journey with him. You really start to see how these journeys affect him, because, well, he's a hunchback and it hurts his back, and that's where him and Brother Guy form this bond, because Brother Guy helps him. Despite their differences, he helps Shardlake with his pain. And, it's so amazing to, read that, because you're just like, what? I would not help you. What I didn't like is the same thing with Revelation, pretty much. At times, very slow moving. There were bits in there I really didn't need to know, that didn't really need to be in there. It would have been fine if that wasn't in there. The story would have ended the same way. With that said, there are bits that are still very slow moving that really need to be in there, but, it could have been faster. C.J. Sampson does have a way of lacing some of our coined terms in there from today's day and age, which I still don't think would have been there. There's certain points where you're reading it and you're like, they would never have said that. What? Alright, that's like in essence, like writing a book in the Victorian era and saying like, oh, he had so much swag. They didn't talk like that, especially with the word swag. I don't even say that. I feel dirty saying that. But anyways, that's an essence of what it is. He's taking coin terms from today's day and age, not the word swag, but, just some of our words that we use, and putting them in there. And I don't know if it's so that way we can relate to these characters, or, not feel like we're in school and, deciphering Shakespeare, but just, it didn't work for me. finding the real language there, which I understand is hard to obtain and hard to write with, but certain words. Apart from that, nothing. I really thoroughly did enjoy this book. All in all, I would really give this book maybe a B because it was good. It wasn't as good as Revelation, but again, remember, this is the first book in the Shardlake series, and any time in a series or a trilogy, the first book is more times than often the weakest because you're introduced to the characters and they don't have much room to grow because you have to become attached to them before they start truly changing and growing, and you do that with them throughout the progress of the book. I'm excited to see into the next book, Sever. I have yet to purchase it, but I'm excited nonetheless because I'm slowly building up my awesome collection of the Shardlake series. So yeah, if you guys are interested in the Shardlake series, do start with Dissolution. I know I said you can start with Revelations. It really doesn't matter where you start. But if you want to see like the character growth and see how CJ Sampson grows as a writer himself, start off with Dissolution. It's not a bad read. It's not fast, but it's not bad, and it's entertaining. So I give it a B. With my next book, I am going against my little jar. I'm not following that. No. I told myself once I finished Dissolution, I was going to be reading Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. I want to read this book. I want to read it so bad that after I'm done filming this, I'm going to go and read it. Cass is a Simon Snow fan. Okay, the whole world is a Simon Snow fan, but for Cass, being a fan is her life. And she's really good at it. She and her twin sister Ren ensconced themselves in the Simon Snow series when they were just kids. It's what got them through their mother leaving. Reading, rereading, hanging out in Simon Snow forums, writing Simon Snow fanfiction, dressing up like the characters for every movie premiere. Cath's sister has mostly grown away from the fandom, but Cath can't let it go. She doesn't want to. Now that they're going to college, Ren has told Cath she doesn't want to be her roommate. Cath is on her own, completely outside of her comfort zone. She's got a surly roommate with a charming, always-around boyfriend. A fanfiction writing professor who thinks fanfiction is the end of a civilized world, a handsome classmate who only wants to talk about words, and she can't stop worrying about her dad, who's loving and fragile and has never really been alone. For Cath, the question is, can she do this? Can she make it without Ren holding her hand? Is she ready to start living her own life? And does she even want to move on if it means leaving Simon Snow behind? Basically, it's just a story about fanfiction and fandoms, and it just reminds me a lot of Harry Potter and my love for Harry Potter. So everyone talks about this book and how amazing it is and life-changing it is, so I'm going to go divulge myself in this now. So, yes. Dissolution is a B. I recommend it to you guys if you guys want to get into the Shardlake series. It's very good. I really did love it, especially for historical fiction. Next up is Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell, which I'm going to go and just devour in a moment's notice. So keep tuned if you guys want to see the review on that. As always, do not forget to subscribe. Awesome links are below: Facebook, Twitter, Book Depository, the whole 9 yards. And until then, you guys, happy reading. Bye!